Welcome. Since the last 24 hours, we can see that the internet has gone ago because Peter Obi fired Tinubu for being an anti-democratic president. And ever since that time, we have seen the likes of Daniel Bwala, Bayonanuga come out to issue warnings that if Peter Obi talks more than his mouth, he will be put in the confinement. Quickly, Pastor Matthew, what's your reaction? And then I'll have the Makers' reaction. Let's go.
Let me quickly tell you that it is irrespective of the opinion of Bayonanuga or any other person who is speaking for the president. Once Obi is doing anything that is within the ambit of the law, I will tell you that he has the support of Nigerians. And don't forget that before now, Nigeria have been yelling that we need an opposition that is vocal, that is bold enough to confront all the excesses of the government. And I think at this point, somebody should be bold enough to tell the president, the presidency, the party center that what we are doing is wrong. We are saying currently that even for the first time in the history of this government, we are seeing someone like Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka criticizing Tinubu on this and talking about the issue of Rivers State. The government of Tinubu is not getting it right in trying to muzzle opposition. This is pure subjugation, particularly because this is the same way he ran Lagos State. If you go and look at this section 305 of 1999 Constitution as amended, that President relied on to suspend the sitting governor of Rivers State, House of Assembly, and the deputy governor, you clearly understand that the president has no power under that same constitution to remove or suspend the governor. So what the president did is purely an impunity, and I think Obi should be encouraged to criticize whatever the government is doing that is wrong. I think Obi has made it very clear, surprisingly anyway, telling the president that, or rather, though he spoke in diplomatic manner, perhaps through he was not too direct, that from 1999 constitution, sorry, from 1999 to the inception of this democracy, that we're getting it right. That currently, that the system is being pulled down by this current administration. Okay. I think the government should understand and do the right thing.
All right, so the Maker, you said yesterday that the Igbos should never be trusted because they seem to be weak. It seems Tinubu is a strong man. Do you agree with the way he's ruling Nigerians, as it were?
Yes, of course. I might not agree the way Bola Ahmed Tinubu is ruling Nigeria, but Obi should mind the way he speaks, because Obi is part of the problem we are having in Nigeria today. Why do I have to say this? I have to tell you, in all honesty, that Obi is fighting alone, because majority of Igbos are not even siding him. What they want is Biafra. So Obi should be careful the way he talks, because many Igbos now, they are thinking that Obi is wasting his time. Let's just channel this energy. Or now the Biafrans are going to get their freedom. Are we saying that we are good as one Nigeria? The answer is no. President Goodluck cannot have said it, that Nigeria has expired. There's something like Nigeria. Who in Yoruba? What is the meaning of Nigeria in Yoruba? What is the meaning of Nigeria in Hausa? What is the meaning of Nigeria in Igbo? No, Nigeria is an English name. And so we are not bound to be together. We are just being forced on this marriage, and this marriage is not working. So why am I saying this? That Peter Obi, after what he has saw in 2023 elections, he should know that fighting Tinubu now, he cannot win Tinubu. If you cannot win him, why this man have not stepped into power? Is it now that he's now sitting in power? The judiciary, the security, the what is it called? The legislature are in his palm. Is it now you want to fight him? Let him go and channel this energy and see how, because I have an opinion that you divide this country, let everybody go, or you restructure this country. We can now call Nigeria a Republic of the United States. And everybody organize this. So for me, Peter Obi should not join the Northerners and split more fire. Am I saying what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his regime is doing in terms of Rivers State by removing the city governor? The answer is no. But Peter Obi is still also part of the problem we have, because you know that the Labour Party cannot deliver Nigeria to you to be a president. You will have stepped down and work with Atiku. If Atiku will be a president in 2023, will not be far better than this Tinubu, the Jagaba we have here now. Because if Atiku is a president now, no matter how it is, Atiku is a businessman. We know Atiku. When you call Aliko Dangote, the next person you call that has a business that is moving in Nigeria is Atiku Abubakar. At the end of the business that Bola Ahmed Tinubu have done in his own life. We know how he make his money. We know he make his money through politics by raising people, and those people will start bringing in returns. That's how Tinubu make his money, and that is the same system. The ideology is shooting to lose in Nigeria. That you see that Nigeria is in chaos. Our economy is in shambles. That we can no longer, unlike before, where men are running to Nigeria to seek for greener pasture. Reverse is the case. We are now the one running to Ghana, running to Cotonou, running to America to go and seek for greener pasture, which is not supposed to be. So for me, Peter Obi should hold his sword, because even the Northerner that are backing him to speak, the Northerner will not give power to him. If he like, I saw most of his videos where you go and breakfasting with the North, the Muslim and all that. They will not. If the Northerners will have want to support Obi, 2023 election will have been the right time for them to support, because after the Hausas have ruled this country, the Yoruba have had their share. We, people like Pa Ayo Adebanjo, may your soul continue resting in peace, was one of the people that stood up in Southwest, that it is his turn of evil, give them chance to do. But the Northerners said no. Many Yorubas voted for Peter Obi. If not, how did he win Lagos? How did he pull more vote in the West here? That's the support of many Yorubas. Have the IQ that it is high time they allow Igbo to rule, since the Northerners and the Yorubas that have ruled this country has relegated us, has made us we don't have value in international. Let's see what the Igbos will bring to bear. But some people look into our hands and post me in our face, and the Northerners, especially these Northerners who stood up now. All the whole calamity under Buhari government did in 8 years, they did not come out to speak. How dare them speaking in this Tinubu government? Who give them the power of monopoly that they are the one to decide who will be president or not? Am I saying what Tinubu is doing is right? No, it's not right. But they should be careful. The word that is coming out from there. If you did not speak when Buhari was there, out of his 8 years of destruction, you don't have any moral right to speak in these 2 years of favor.
Okay, so Pastor Matthew, you heard that angle that the Waymaker is coming from. It seems the North are pushing Peter Obi into the pit, or perhaps they want to use Peter Obi as a stepping stone, because we know how the North have been the cause why the Nigerian democracy has always failed. Are you still going to advise Peter Obi to continue speaking the way he is?
I don't know what you mean by continue speaking. I understand that under the constitution, under the Nigerian constitution, Peter Obi have freedom of speech. And I'm not aware that they will have violated any known law. I'm not aware that they will have committed any offense that warrants maybe arraigning him in court. And if what we should do in Nigeria is to keep quiet when things are going wrong, if that's the best way to go about it, maybe you should advise me. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't see anything wrong in anybody raising his voice against any bad system. Look at when Natasha Akpoti was suspended. This is the lady who came with a valid court order. The leadership of the House, Senate, even the House committee that was to probe her, or rather that probed her, ignored a valid court order. Let me be surprised that after they suspended her, the court now went back to vacate the court order, claiming that the order had been overtaken by events. Instead of summoning those that violated the order to charge them for contempt and make them to act as deterrent to others. I'm trying to tell you what the impunity is doing in this country. And if Obi have decided that yes, this is the time to raise my voice and be vocal, irrespective of who is there, that I will not be afraid, I think we should encourage him.
So you don't agree that Obi should rather channel his energy for the emancipation of Biafra? Because you have been saying that Nigeria as a system seems to be a failure. The Waymaker is saying that don't waste your time. Obi, you have the love, you have the support. Why don't you push for the peaceful separation of the country? Let us have your final note, then I have the final note of the Waymaker.
Biafra sovereignty, self-determination is a UN charter that has been ratified in Nigeria. To that extent, it is a right in Nigeria. So anybody agitating for self-determination through Biafra sovereignty is right. Obi equally have right to say the government is not being run the way they should run it, and I criticize it. So it all depends on the opinion and the trajectory Obi want to follow. Either of the two is right.
All right. So you want to your last your comment?
Yes, of course. Of what I stand on what I said, Peter Obi should channel his energies and see how the people of the Southeast life can be better. Because I watch Mazen and the Kanu was being questioned that this one you are trying to fight the federal government, you will channel this energy on the Southeast state to get it. I cannot channel it because the governors, they relied on the federal location, so it's better for me to channel my energy on federal and pull my people out, then I cannot concentrate on them. So for me, Peter Obi should go and weigh these options, because if he allowed the Northerners to push him to war, Northerners, I know that will not render power to him. They have seen the vote that Peter Obi pulled in 2023 election. They know that he has a crowd. They can use Peter Obi to get more crowd from the south here, then they will defeat Tinubu in the north. But as I speak to you right now, don't forget that they can never, as I said, they take my water bank, that they cannot allow Obi to become president. What they are telling Obi now, Obi should be deputized Atiku so that they can easily defeat Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And when we are saying that if Obi fall into that victim, Obi will regret it.
Refer your assessment on the state of democracy, or perhaps lack of, in some people's opinion, in Nigeria and Africa.
So the problem is, I don't think democracy has any problem. And when people say that when you look at democracy, it's not really an African thing. I will beg to differ a bit.
Afro-democracy is what they're
Yeah, you know, the truth is, the problem is not democracy. It's the system that makes it easy for the strongmen to have a winner-takes-all mentality. And I'm shocked that those that are speaking, people like President Olusegun Obasanjo, when he was there, he also did the winner-takes-all mentality. It was under Obasanjo that we saw Rashidi Ladoja, you know, removed from office because he was not paying his godfather in Oyo State, Adidibu then, 15 million naira monthly out of the allocation, which was a winner-takes-all mentality thing. It was under him we saw elections that a lot of people challenged. It was under him we saw the reign where, you know, there was a sweep across the Southwest and only President Tinubu was last man standing. But the funny thing is that the same President Tinubu that was a hero that stood to fight against President Obasanjo then has now taken that strongman reign now because you do not have the checks and balances in the system. So the problem is not democracy. Read Alexis de Tocqueville's Democracy in America. What were the tenets that kept American democracy sane as at 1835? Strong pressure group. Yeah. The fact that there was a great level of individualism. Today, there's no level of individualism, there's poverty across board. That's why everybody wants to work in government. You know, people don't have jobs, so everybody wants to be a government spokesman. Somebody said something yesterday, today he can't back it up again. Most Nigerian politicians are agips, any government in power. He also talked about, you know, the capacity for the separation of power. That was also enunciated if you read Alexander Hamilton's The Federalist Papers, where he talked about the strong judiciary that can be a bulwark. It's not that you don't have a strong high-handed, strongman syndrome in America too, but Trump is seeing that it's very difficult because of the strong court institutions. That's what sometimes he's even threatened to, you know, debar some judges. It's so bad to the extent that the Supreme Court judge made a veiled reference to the things Trump has been doing. So democracy is about checks and balances. And when you come back to the historical African society, there were checks and balances. Because somebody was a Kabiyesi did not mean that he had all the powers. What happened? We had various segments of societies. I'll give you historical context of Ijebu societies, for instance. In the Ijebu society, every street was called an Itun or an area. The head of the street was called an Oloritun. So there was a sub-council within the council. It was the Oloritun that took all the pleas of that street to the Kabiyesi. There's also a Kabiyesi in council like the Oyomesi. The leadership selection process then was keenly contested. You cannot be a Balogun in mouth. You had to be a Balogun because you earned it over the years. But here, it's become a winner takes it all. Leadership selection process is flawed. Then you have multiple problems. So except we start to change those layers of accountability in our democracy, we're not going to go anywhere. And we're going to keep blaming democracy. Anybody that assumes the position of the president of Nigeria with the kind of powers the constitution gives them will misuse powers. Even those that claim to be saints today. Except you put checks and balances in place. That's just it.
Okay, the statements by President Olusegun Obasanjo and Mr. Peter Obi were made at the colloquium in honor of Honorable Emeka Ihedioha, who turned 60 and who decided to, celebrate and with a colloquium, with a very formal discussion about the state of Nigeria and the state of our democracy. So congratulations to Honorable Emeka Ihedioha, CON, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, representing, I think it's Mbano Federal Constituency from 2003 to 2015 or thereabouts. He later became governor in Imo State, and he was removed from office by that arithmetical, Solomonic exaction of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. But it was good to see yesterday that it still remains relevant, and it could still mobilize, the high and mighty of Nigeria to come and celebrate with him on the occasion of his 60th birthday. I hope he knows that this has implications. He's my friend, so I have the liberty to say that. Now, to go to the substantive issues, at that occasion, the issue about democracy. Now, you introduced the topic quoting President Obasanjo, who says democracy has failed in Africa. And his main argument, let's look at it theoretically, is that, look, the values of democracy those are not the things that we're doing in Africa. That democracy, the Greek democracy of the majority ruling the minority and all of that, that is not what is happening in Africa. That is the minority that is ruling the majority in Africa. Well, in that regard, President Obasanjo may be pointing to the flaws in the democratic process. But with due respect, I would like to draw attention to a book by Farid Zakaria, who is an intellectual, Oxford-trained Indian American, intellectual on television in CNN. He wrote that book, The Future of Freedom, a Liberal Democracy in the 20th Century. And he was saying that if you look at countries where democracy, has worked, those countries adapt the Western liberal democratic model to their own purposes. In other words, what Arthur M. Okun, in another famous essay for students of the subject, defines as trade-offs, as you have in the Asian countries. They have democracy in Asia, but they have been able to domesticate the democracy in such a way that it serves their own purpose. So at that level, I think that that's where President Obasanjo is coming from when he talks about African values, when he talks about Afro-democracy. So theoretically, that will be a justification for his argument. But where I differ with President Obasanjo is that, look, in the 1970s, the argument, theoretically, again in political science, was about strongman politics. When in Africa, people thought, oh, you must have a soldier, a man who is strong for the development process to move. But by the 80s and 90s, we had this wave of democratization across Africa. The big challenge that we face in Africa now is that when we expected that there would be democratic consolidation, what we are having instead is reversal. As we have seen in Gabon, Guinea, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali. And that in itself, is enough concern for somebody to say, well, I don't think this democracy is working. But I think the bigger issue and lesson is that in many of these countries that I have cited, the problem is with the leadership. As Chinua Achebe argued in 1983 in his book, The Trouble with Nigeria, is the leadership recruitment process that is warped. Where in this country, we are saying democracy has failed. Look at some of the people that get into power. Some bricklayers will suddenly become very important people in this country. They don't even know what democracy is. Some motor packed outs will suddenly become very important people. Is that how they run democracy, the Western liberal democracy that we are talking about? In some countries, if you did not graduate from Oxford or you did not go to a proper university, you will not be allowed to hold important position. So we run a democracy that is based on elementary, politics, that is based on stomach infrastructure, that is based on godfatherism. Those are the fault lines. And that is why I agree with Senator Tambuwal and also Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka that democracy is a work in progress. The values that we are missing, how do we address them to make sure that it is the right people who get into government? As for Mr. Peter Obi, who also spoke at the event, he said democracy is collapsing in Nigeria. I disagree with the view that democracy is collapsing in Nigeria because of what has transpired in Rivers State. Since the return to democracy in 1999 in this country, Nigerians have resolved that never again military rule, because we went through the evil of military rule. And I think substantially we have sustained the democratic project in this country. The problem may be the leadership recruitment process, may be the character of the political parties and the nature of our politics. But I think democracy since 1999 has served us very well in this country, and it is a project that must be sustained. If there is a problem in Rivers